Hello again. This time we're going to make sour cream donuts, which does not need an oven. So, we're going to go through the ingredients that we need, and this is 3 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 teaspoon baking soda, 1 cup of sugar, 2 eggs, 1 cup of sour cream, and 5 1/2 tablespoons of melted butter, and also the zest of 1 orange. Okay, now we're going to take all the flour and put it in a big bowl, and we're going to take the baking powder, baking soda, salt, and the cinnamon. We're going to add it to there, and we're just going to stir this all together until it's all mixed and there's no lump. You can use a sifter or a whisk. Just make sure that it's all evenly mixed together, so you can't see any of the cinnamon. Everything's all mixed, just like that. See? It all looks like one mix. Okay, now the next step is to add the 2 eggs and 1 cup of sugar into the mixing bowl. You can use a whisk and do it by hand. Just takes a little bit longer, or you can use a hand mixer. So you just mix those 2 together. I'm going to raise this, and you just whip it until it's pale and all comes together, and it's going to take about 3 minutes. So we're going to keep whisking, and we'll come back when it's done. Okay, now we whipped it, and as you can see, it's really pale. It's gotten thick, and it leaves a trail. So when you lift it up, you see that trail like that? I'm going to put it back in. Now we're going to add the zest of 1 orange and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And you're just going to add that directly into there, scraping it all out, getting all that orange. You could also use about a teaspoon of orange extract. Again. And remember to take your spatula and just bring down the sides so everything gets mixed. Okay, now we're going to add the melted butter that's been cooled. Apparently this is boring. Now we're going to add the melted butter that's cooled down, and we're going to do this while it's on. So we're going to turn it on to a slow and gently add the butter, a little at a time. So you add a little bit and then you mix. You go back to low and you add a little bit more. You let it mix. And then you add the rest of it. And you let it mix. Okay, now that it's all mixed together, you can see it's getting thicker, and that's the butter. And now we're going to add 1 cup of sour cream, and we're going to add it just like the butter, a little bit at a time. There's hair in there too. So now we're going to add the sour cream. And we're gonna do it just like the butter, a little bit at a time. So we're gonna add 1 scoop like that, and turn it on really slow. Let it mix together, and then another big scoop, and mix that. And now you can pretty much add the rest of it now that it's been incorporated. So it's a little bit easier. Okay, remember to get all the sour cream because you measured it out accurately and you don't want any to be missing. Okay, and now we're going to mix that. Just until it's combined. And then we are done with our first step, and you're going to be left with something that looks like this. It's going to look foamy and pale. And now we're going to incorporate this with the flour and fold it in. Okay, now we're going to take our mix that we did in the mixer, and we're going to add it to our flour that we already stirred up. And you're just going to pour it all in directly in like that and scrape out the bottom. Okay, put that on the side, and now we're just going to fold it in. And that's, you start in the middle. As you're turning, you go around the side of the bowl and back in the middle. And you just keep doing this motion. So I'm going in, you grab the bowl, and I'm turning as I scrape the side and I go back down the center. And you keep doing this until the mixture comes together and you have a slightly sticky dough. Okay, and now we've gotten this ball of dough. And you see it's slightly sticking to the side, but for the most part it's not very sticky. And that's what you want, because you don't want it to be too sticky, but just enough, because we're going to add flour to this when we roll it out. So now I'm going to take this, and you want to get a floured surface, and we're going to start rolling. Okay, so now I have it on a floured board, and I put the big ball and I covered it with flour. Now your hands are going to get a little dirty, but you know, it's all in the name of good food. And you want to get your hands floured like this, and it's easier to work with smaller amounts of dough. You don't want to roll out this big thing by yourself. So I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to cut those halves. I'm putting a little flour on the knife so I can cut through. And I'm cutting that half in quarters. We're going to put these quarters on the side and work with one piece at a time. So this is also a good recipe to do the next day. So if you wanted to do this the night before, cover them slightly in flour and then put them back in the bowl and cover them with a warm lid and keep them in the fridge. And you could have this for breakfast and do this the next day. It holds really well. Okay, so now I have my floured surface. I'm going to put a little bit more flour on the top, and I'm going to roll this out till it's about ½ inch thick, maybe slightly less. So there you see how thick it is, and you know it's nice and even. We're just going to take the excess flour out. Okay, I don't have a donut cutter, but you can buy one at like a local food store, but I'm using two cutters, one slightly smaller than the next, just like that. And so you're going to cut out the bigger circle first, just like that. And you see the evenness is pretty much even all around. And then you're going to take the smaller one and you're going to cut out the donut hole. See? It doesn't have to be perfect. And you can save these and you can fry these and make donut holes. And I have a pan here with a little bit of flour, and I'm just going to keep cutting, and I'm going to put them here and just keep going until I have my pan all filled up and I've used all my 4 balls of dough. So you just keep working like that. And you do this with all 4, just the same. And it's easiest to do all 4 and then save the scraps, like these pieces that I'm not going to be using. And you can roll them out one more time and get donuts out of that. But that's it. After that, you would have to throw away the dough. If you roll it more than one time, your donuts will come out tough because you're overworking the gluten in the dough. So I'm going to keep going.